What happened when you stopped being the teacher's pet? Last semester, my AP history teacher called me into her office to tell me I was ruining her class by making everyone else look bad. Mrs. Grimm actually said to my face that I had the social awareness of a calculator and the personality of an instruction manual nobody wants to read. We were in her cramped office when she ambushed me, listing all the ways my excessive preparation and constant participation were destroying the classroom dynamic. "You're 17 years old and you act like you're gunning for tenure," she said while adjusting her reading glasses. She went on to explain how my color-coded notes and perfectly formatted essays made other students feel inadequate. "I'm not asking you to fail. I'm telling you to dial it back to normal human levels or find another class," Mrs. Grimm announced. Then she dropped a line that made me realize this woman had no idea what was coming. "If you can't stop answering every single question and organizing study groups that make my teaching look unnecessary by next Monday, then you need to find some online course where you can be as extra as you want because I'm creating a participation cap." I stood up and told her she was absolutely right about one thing, because I was definitely done carrying her classroom, and walked out knowing her teaching career was about to implode. The first class without my participation started with Mrs. Grimm calling on Jake, who thought the Civil War happened in 1965. She spent 20 minutes trying to explain why that was wrong, while the class descended into chaos because I wasn't there to redirect discussions back on topic. She ended up screaming at everyone that they were idiots, which made 3 students walk out and report her to the dean for verbal abuse. The second week, Mrs. Grimm tried to run the debate tournament I usually organized but forgot to assign topics. Students showed up ready to argue about literally anything, and Max convinced everyone they should debate whether hot dogs were sandwiches. When she tried to stop them, they cited freedom of speech and continued for 40 minutes while she sat at her desk with her head in her hands. She called the principal for help, but he found her sobbing into her coffee mug while students were using textbooks as makeshift podiums. Week 3 brought the biggest disaster when she realized nobody had been taking notes because I always shared mine with everyone. The entire class failed the midterm, with the highest score being 32% from Kate, who only remembered dates because they matched her ex-boyfriend's birthdays. Instead of me organizing the review session like always, students tried to study using fortune cookies and horoscopes that Nick claimed were basically history predictions. By the end of the first month, her classroom was completely destroyed because I wasn't there to answer the questions she couldn't. Jake asked why George Washington was called the father of our country when he didn't have kids, and Mrs. Grimm spent 30 minutes frantically flipping through textbooks while the class played poker with flashcards. Max started teaching his own version of history, where aliens built the pyramids, and somehow convinced half the class this would be on the test. Mrs. Grimm lost her mind when the principal observed her class and witnessed her trying to explain the Boston Tea Party, while Nick insisted it was actually about actual tea flavors and which one the British liked best. The final disaster came when she assigned a group project thinking students would figure it out themselves. Without me coordinating everything, 7 different groups showed up, having all done presentations on World War II because nobody communicated. One group's entire project was just drawings of Hitler's mustache in different styles. Another group performed an interpretive dance they claimed represented the Holocaust, and Max's group built a time machine out of cardboard that they insisted was historically accurate. The superintendent walked in during the presentations to find Mrs. Grimm crying at her desk while a student dressed as Stalin was doing the robot. The best moment happened when Mrs. Grimm stood up and yelled, "Where is my teacher's pet? This room doesn't function without someone who actually cares." She called me that night from her home, where she was apparently drinking wine and grading papers that were all somehow about the wrong century. She was begging me to come back and offering to write me a recommendation letter to Harvard if I would just keep her classroom from descending into complete anarchy. I hung up while she was still begging.